हेलो 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 एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू माय स्ट्रीम। आज चीज़ें थोड़ी अलग होने वाली हैं। आज हम गेम्स खेलने के बजाय और आप लोगों को अपने गेम प्ले के थ्रू एंटरटेन करने के बजाय वी विल ट्राई टू find new things. I found something really interesting and I wanted to put it on my stream, so really had to. I'm really excited about Nintendo Switch 2, and this YouTuber posted something about it, and let's watch it together.
Switch 2. It's been more than a year since the Switch OLED launched, and this thing was awesome. The display was much improved over the original.
Definitely, Switch OLED was a big improvement on the normal Nintendo Switch. Screen was not a very high-end screen in the Nintendos, and that's why उन्होंने ये OLED निकाला था. It was bigger, badder, and meaner. And OLED screens are always beautiful to watch, you know.
Originals. It also had an improved kickstand, but it wasn't really the upgrade that we were all hoping for and expecting.
bezels
And that's
bhi
because
chote
it had no 4K resolution support, it had no improved graphics, or any
Yep.
other major improvements. But now we have some new leaks on the Nintendo Switch 2, so here
First of all, अगर 1% भी Nintendo Switch कुछ इस तरह दिखता है अब की बार, this will be damn cool. वो जो छोटे वाले Nintendo Switch आए थे, what were they called? Um, what were they called? Let's search. Small Nintendo Switch. What was it called, man? What was it called again? Lite, yes. Nintendo Switch Lite, my bad. ये कुछ कुछ वैसा दिख रहा है, बट क्योंकि ये तो फ्लैगशिप होगा तो इसके कंट्रोलर्स अलग निकल पाएंगे. that's what we can understand from the photos so far. And the same scheme looks very cool. It looks like a proper console. even though पहले भी लगता था, पहले ज़्यादा ही cool लगता था अलग अलग कलर्स के साथ, बट ये एक अलग एस्थेटिक ऐड कर रहा है उसके साथ. एंड सेकंड व्हाट आई कैन सेंस इज बेजल्स बहुत बहुत पतले हो गए हैं पहले से. एंड अगर ऐसा हो जाता है तो ये बहुत ब्यूटीफुल लगेगा.
are 7 interesting features to expect. Number 1,
Okay.
DLSS. You've probably heard of what DLSS actually is. It's NVIDIA's AI reconstruction or AI upscaling technology. And it's
Yeah,
honestly
yeah.
pretty impressive, especially DLSS 3, which is the latest version found in the RTX 4000 series of GPUs. It's impressive because in quality
have
or
a
even in its
4000
balanced
GPU.
mode, the upscaled 4K looks almost identical to the native 4K. And according to latest leaks, DLSS will actually be included in the next Switch. So Nvidia got hacked back in February, and we had some leaked files. The DLSS source code got leaked, and there was a reference to NVN2, which didn't really mean anything at first, but then some people found that NVN was actually the reference for the Nintendo Switch, with NVN2
Okay.
likely hinting at the second-gen Switch. And
That
apparently
will
this was
be
also
amazing
hinting
अगर ये हो
at
जाता है.
3, which is the LED
Skip it,
maxes
skip it.
out at 1080p when docked. Most games are 30 frames per second, and the ones that are 60
ये एक बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम थी Nintendo Switch की कि पुराने Nintendo Switch में फ्रेम रेट्स तुम ज़्यादा हाई नहीं कर सकते. इट्स 30 एंड आई थिंक 60 भी नहीं जाता, सिर्फ OLED में जाता है. आई एम नॉट वेरी श्योर अबाउट इट. एंड 30 फ्रेम्स पर सेकंड इज़ नॉट वेरी इंजॉयबल, मैन. उसकी स्क्रीन छोटी है एंड Nintendo Switch यूजुअली बच्चे खेलते हैं अपने स्कूल से आके हम जैसे प्लेयर्स को फोर्टनाइट में डोमिनेट करने के लिए, एंड वो 30 फ्रेम्स पे भी गांड मार देते हैं. तो अगर ये फ्रेम रेट्स किसी भी तरीके से इंक्रीज हो जाते हैं, दैट विल बी ह्यूज हेल्प टू दोज monsters.
are actually at a dynamic 1080p resolution, which doesn't look great at all on a 4K TV. So with DLSS, we should be getting full 4K support, which would look very, very sharp on a TV, even though this would still be upscaled. And
So
that's because Nintendo uses a very cartoonish and simple art style and textures, which are actually very easy to upscale compared to more realistic textures like you can find in games like Call of Duty, for example.
but then what about the other games which people play on Nintendo Switch? Like बहुत लोग Nintendo पे वो खेलते थे, क्या नाम है उसका, एपेक्स लेजेंड्स के काफ़ी रियलिस्टिक विजुअल्स हैं आई गेस. हाउ विल इट दैट गो? एंड अगर सिर्फ डॉकिंग में 4K है तो नॉर्मल में कौन सा रहेगा? आई एम वेरी एक्साइटेड अबाउट ऑल
Okay, the second big new feature to expect is ray tracing. And that's because this DLSS leak also hinted at ray tracing support on the next Nintendo Switch console. So that's
रे ट्रेसिंग आ गई तो बहुत ही मस्त हो जाएगा. फिर तुम AAA टाइटल्स और भी ज़्यादा स्मूथनेस के साथ और भी ज़्यादा बेटर परफॉर्मेंस के साथ खेल पाओगे नए Nintendo Switch पे, क्योंकि अभी जितने भी लेटेस्ट एंड ग्रेटेस्ट AAA टाइटल्स आ रहे हैं उन सब में रे ट्रेसिंग होती है. एंड रे ट्रेसिंग बहुत ज़्यादा बेटर रेंडरिंग करती है
Sounds
एज़ कम्पेयर टू
exciting,
अदर्स.
but don't expect a lot of games to actually be using it. And that's because if we take a look at the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, there's only very few games that actually support ray tracing.
दैट्स बिकॉज इट्स वेरी वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एंड तुम्हें बहुत ज़्यादा हैवी और स्ट्रॉन्ग मशीनरी चाहिए उसे रेंडर करने के लिए.
Mostly first party ones. So with ray tracing. Ray tracing is usually limited to 30 frames per second, or if it's 60, it is not 4K, it is like 1440p or even 1080p. Which means that if the Switch 2 actually uses ray tracing in games, that would be at very likely 1440p upscaled to 4K using DLSS, and then at a frame rate of 30 FPS. And I do actually think that some Nintendo games could benefit from this, such as Splatoon. I think that's the best example. There's a lot of reflections in that game. But other than that, I don't see the Nintendo art style benefiting that much from ray tracing. Okay,
ये थोड़ा सा फार फेच्ड भी लग रहा है क्योंकि जो 4K वाला है एंड फ्रेम रेट्स इंक्रीज्ड मिलेंगे, ये सब जो बातें चल रही हैं ये तब भी हो सकती हैं. पर ये जो कह रहे हैं ना, रे ट्रेसिंग थोड़ी मुश्किल है. एज ही सेड कि निंटेंडो की गेम्स कुछ खास ज़्यादा यूज़ करते नहीं है ये सब.
the third big new feature is that the overall performance is said to be up to 6 times more powerful than the current Switch. And that's because
डैम दिस इज एक्साइटिंग. अगर स्विच पहले से स्ट्रॉन्ग हो जाता है तो what do you think will it be able to compete with Steam Deck and other handheld consoles which are coming up?
we now have some more details on the actual chip, which is said to be the Tegra 239. Now, this
Whoa,
has been rumored since
nice.
2021, but now we have some specifics and some actual specs thanks to an NVIDIA leaker. So the CPU is said to be an 8-core chip based on the ARM Cortex A78C and A78 architecture. Also, this will be an Ampere-based
Biothread बहुत हो
GPU,
रही
just
है.
like the RTX 3000 series, and that leaked DLSS 2.2 basically confirms that, as DLSS 2 was introduced as part of the Ampere architecture. But okay, how
Okay.
powerful could such a Switch 2 actually be? Well, based on the specs that we've seen, a Reddit user, SynomFG, actually calculated this. And apparently the CPU will be up to 6 times as powerful as the Switch 1 CPU, and the GPU would be up to 5 times more powerful than the Switch 1's. And when
For
docked,
real?
we would have a total performance of 2.5 teraflops. Now, that's a
That's
huge
fucking
improvement over
amazing.
the Switch 1, but compared to something like the PS5, this is still 1/4 of the performance, and that is also when docked. So yeah, it still won't compete with modern consoles. However, compared to the previous gen consoles, it will be more powerful. So compared to the PS4, which has 1.84
भाई
teraflops,
अपग्रेड
this
होना
has
चाहिए.
2.5.
तुम किसी भी चीज़ को किसी और चीज़ से कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते हो. फॉर एग्जांपल अभी जितने भी निंटेंडो स्विच हैं उनके जो यूज़र्स हैं, निंटेंडो स्विच डज द जॉब फॉर देयर यूज़र्स, यू नो. कोई भी उस पे खेल के, लाइक अगर तुम्हें बहुत ज़्यादा आदत है बढ़िया क्वालिटी में खेलने की और तुम बहुत अमीर हो, बहुत पैसा है घर में, सब कुछ है तुम्हारे पास, तो तुम कंप्लेंट कर भी सकते हो. बट अगर तुम मेरे जैसे इंसान के बारे में सोचो तो मेरे पुराने वाले लैपटॉप पे 15 इंच के लैपटॉप पे 30 फ्रेम्स पर सेकेंड पे फोर्टनाइट भी खेला है मैंने. बहुत साल ग्राइंड किया है. एंड अब जाके आई गॉट अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ अपग्रेड. तो अगर तुम मेरे जैसे इंसान को बोलो कि भाई तुम सर्दी में अपने बिस्तर पे बैठ के आराम से निंटेंडो स्विच पे खेल पाओगे, तो 30 फ्रेम्स और 60 फ्रेम्स डजेंट मैटर. प्लस ये फ्रेम रेट्स के उन छोटे बच्चों को हमें डोमिनेट करने से रोकते हैं. आईफल टावर्स तक बना देते हैं भाई. वो इतने तुम अपनी गन चेंज करते हो फोर्टनाइट में, वो तुम्हें फोड़ के चले जाते हैं. तो आई डोंट थिंक कि अगर स्क्रीन छोटी है, अगर डॉक डॉक करने के बाद कुछ इन्हांसमेंट्स हैं तो वो तो डेफिनेटली इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि बड़ी स्क्रीन पे 30 फ्रेम रेट्स लुक शिट एज फक. बट अगर तुम सिर्फ उसकी ओरिजिनल स्क्रीन को विदाउट डॉकिंग खेलोगे तो 30 फ्रेम्स इज़ नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. इट्स नॉट अ वेरी बिग प्रॉब्लम. एंड प्लस उनकी इंटीग्रेशन काफ़ी अच्छी होती है. तो अगर बहुत ज़्यादा अपग्रेड्स भी नहीं मिलते, बट तुम इतना भी कह सकते हो कि जैसे ही कह रहे 6 टाइम्स स्ट्रॉन्गर देन द अर्लियर मॉडल्स, दैट्स ऑल्सो इनफ. एंड निंटेंडो स्विच कुछ खास इतने महंगे भी नहीं होते हैं. तो दे आर प्रीटी अफोर्डेबल, लाइक दे आर फन मैन, दे आर वेरी फन. अगर छोटे मोटे हार्डवेयर अपडेट्स एंड छोटे मोटे पावर अपडेट्स भी मिल जाते हैं, आई थिंक इट्स स्टिल वर्थ इट.
So yes, it will be more powerful than a PS4, not so much compared to the PS4 Pro, which has 4.2 teraflops. But considering that a PS4 is still getting the latest games right now, such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, so those are still available on the PS4, however in 1080p 30 or 60 at most, it likely means that the Switch 2 will be able to do 1080p 30, but then upscale that
You just look at this Switch 2 की बॉडी मैन, इसके बेजल्स कितने पतले हैं और उसके कंट्रोलर्स इतने क्लोजली हैं उसके साथ. दिस लुक्स एस्थेटिक एज फक. जस्ट इमेजिन तुम ट्रैवलिंग कर रहे हो एंड यू पुल दिस आउट ऑफ योर बैग एंड स्टार्ट एंजॉइंग फोर्टनाइट और रॉकेट लीग और समथिंग लाइक दैट. हाउ फन विल दैट बी, हाउ कूल विल दैट बी?
to 4K. And that's pretty impressive considering that I'm talking about games as big as God of War Ragnarok. So the fourth thing that you should know is that AAA games are finally coming to Nintendo with
सी दिस इज व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट. अब तुम Nintendo Switch पर ई स्पोर्ट्स तो नहीं, competitive गेमिंग तो नहीं कर सकते. ऑलराइट, ये मेनली इन बच्चों, छोटे बच्चों के लिए और कैजुअल गेमर्स ओरिएंटेड प्रोडक्ट है. अब तुम इसमें अगर इतनी कैपेबिलिटी भी ला देते हो कि तुम ऑन द गो अपने ट्रिपल ए टाइटल्स खेल पाओगे Nintendo Switch पे, उससे ज़्यादा क्या चाहिए भाई? जान लोगे क्या?
the Switch 2. In fact, Call of Duty is probably the biggest one. As you probably know, Microsoft is in the process of buying Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion. Sony is of course against this. They want Call of Duty on their platform and not exclusive to Xbox or on Game Pass. So Microsoft then offered Sony a 10-year deal to have Call of Duty on PlayStation. But the thing is, even after those 10 years would expire, it would still be available on PlayStation, but likely you would have more bonuses on the Xbox. Now, Sony hasn't accepted that 10-year deal yet, but in the meantime, Microsoft offered the same deal to Nintendo, and they accepted. So if this deal does go through, then Call of Duty will definitely be coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. Although
That's
it
a
won't
big
happen
news.
until
a big
maybe
news
1 or
for
2
Call of Duty
years
fans,
from
you know?
now, at least. And number 5 is that the Nintendo Switch 2 will actually be very different. And I would say that this
How?
is actually the most interesting thing about it. So
Okay.
Miyamoto actually had a very interesting remark to make, which is very thought-provoking. So this is what he said. Nintendo's strength is in creating new games. With new hardware, we would like to propose unique games that cannot be realized on existing hardware. So yeah, he mentioned
Okay.
new hardware and then also that unique games would be impossible to do on existing hardware. But the thing is that the Switch 2 would simply just be a graphical upgrade, which means that it would be more than that. You know, it needs to have some unique features, hardware features, that will allow it to run games in such a way that they simply cannot run at the moment on the original Switch, like the haptics we had on the first Switch. I really have no clue in terms of what these unique features could be, but I do think that it could be something related to haptics or something related to what Nintendo did in the past. If you take a look at the Nintendo Wii U, although it did fail and it had a bad name, bad marketing, the idea of a controller which also had a secondary display and you could use that to see the map in some games, I think that was a really good idea. So based on what Miyamoto said, I do think that the Switch 2 might not even be a Switch. It might not even be called a Switch at all. It might be something else entirely with some very unique features. Then at number
Okay.
6, we have backwards compatibility. So at an investors meeting, Miyamoto was asked about
Okay, so um, this was it for this particular video. I really wanted to share the Nintendo Switch thing, what is going on, and I'm very excited for it. Let's see how it goes and what comes out. Next, I had something, one other thing. Yes, this GPU is wireless. What the fuck is
I
this?
remember seeing the press releases for this thing and thinking, whoa, that seems so cool. But
I know,
also,
right?
who in their right mind would ever buy it? I guess now we've got the answer because an LTT viewer from Milwaukee put the Galaxy GTX 460 WHDI in the mail for us, and after 10 years, I finally get to be hands-on with, to my knowledge, the only wireless GPU that has ever existed. What makes
Can you even, does this even make sense? A wireless GPU. Do you know what this means? अगर तुम्हारे पास एक गंदा पुराना लैपटॉप है जिस पे अच्छा जीपीयू नहीं है, जिस पे गेम्स नहीं चलते, तुम इंजॉय नहीं कर पाते, तुम इसका फुल पोटेंशियल नहीं निकाल पा रहे, बट यू लव दैट लैपटॉप, you just can't let it go. What you can do is, if you're crazy enough, buy a Wi-Fi based GeForce GTX 460 वायरलेस GPU एंड तुम उसको वायरलेसली अपने लैपटॉप से कनेक्ट करके एंड तुम उसे यूज़ कर सकते हो एंड देन यू विल बी एबल टू डू द हेवी स्टफ ऑन इट एज वेल. How cool does that sound? You can carry that GPU in your bag and use your laptop like this, like a crazy bastard. But do what makes you happy.
Makes it a wireless GPU? I'm so glad you asked. On the back of the GPU, aside from your DVI and DisplayPort, you will find 5 antennas, which supposedly allow this graphics card to send an uncompressed, low latency 1080p image to supported devices.
Okay.
What supported devices? I don't know. How does it work? I guess we're gonna find out. And who sponsored this video? Well, our sponsor, Signal RGB.
Come on, we don't need your sponsorship shit, man. Just let me see the GPU. I wanna see how it looks.
Port is for, but presumably something. Are you getting all this, Brandon? Maybe just get a shot of it like that. Or...
Okay, तो ये adapter है क्या?
Mini HDMI.
Okay, ये है graphic card.
It comes off, Jake. It's not a rusty boy. It feels pretty cheap for a $500 GPU. Oh my goodness. Okay, what are we looking at here? Pretty basic board layout. Oh, in terms of specs, so what was a 460? 1 gig of VRAM, a mere 336 shaders. It used the same Fermi architecture as the much
Okay,
maligned
I take my words back. You can't do a
480,
lot with
although
it.
the 460 was actually a pretty sensible card. It didn't have the same power consumption problems. It's got support for DisplayPort. I believe this is 1.1, I want to say. HDMI 1.4a, although you'll notice that the HDMI port is conspicuously absent, and of course DVI. That's because the only HDMI-ish port on this thing is these 5 antennas. Why does it need 5 antennas, you might ask? Ah, because 60 gigahertz wireless didn't exist yet. These days, 1080p 60 wirelessly, no problem. I mean, we've got wireless VR headsets that are doing far higher than that with
But
incredibly low latency.
if you try to think about it, जिसने भी डिजाइन किया है कितना ज़्यादा cool idea था ये. उसने अपनी कितनी गांड घिसाई करी होगी इसको बनाने में. बेचारा चला नहीं. I hope he finds success someday. Well, फिलहाल तो यही 2 वीडियोस थी जो मैं अपनी स्ट्रीम पे शेयर करना चाहता था. Let's see if we have a random video to share with you guys from my feed. Arcane Secrets. I'm rewatching Arcane recently. I don't need the secrets. This looks pretty cool. This double screen laptop is incredible. I mean, it looks incredible. पहले उसका एक लैपटॉप आया था जिसमें यहाँ तक स्क्रीन थी और नीचे कीबोर्ड था. इसमें सिर्फ स्क्रीन है.
Every once in a while, a
Pretty
product comes
interesting.
out that I think fundamentally changes the way that I look at a product category. And this is one of those. So this is the
true
new
that.
Lenovo Yoga Book 9i. And a couple weeks ago, Lenovo reached out. They're like, hey, for CES, we're launching a new product. It's something a little different, something a little cool. We want you to check it out. So I get it in, and I open up the box, and it's this thing, a laptop with 2 screens. So this is an engineering sample. A lot of stuff is like a little bit janky, but it's just the way that engineering samples are. But when I first pulled this out, I was like, haven't I seen something like this before? And I thought about it, I kind of have, but not really. Like I've seen devices with multiple screens of different sizes. I've seen foldable laptops with like bending screens. I've also seen laptops with like 3 screens, but never a device with 2 completely identical OLED panels.
Oh, so
without
it is OLED.
a keyboard. This is a clamshell device with no keyboard. So I pull it out. I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat. But
This is like a Samsung flip foldable phone which runs Windows. ये Samsung flip phones का बड़ा भाई है.
then the moment I started using this thing, within like 2 minutes, I was like, I got it. This thing is awesome. And I think almost anyone who uses a laptop can appreciate what this device can do. So if you're using this for work, you can throw a document or your email on one screen and then some kind of reference material on the other. Or you can go vertical. So if you're a developer, you can
Damn
put your
right, this is
code on one side
actually
and then
fucking
test your
awesome.
app or your site on the other side. But you have two separate 13-inch panels for productivity. It's so good. And if you want to do some
Definitely.
work while taking like a Zoom call or something, you can procrastinate at the same time with like a show or a live stream on the other screen. And if you want to draw or work with any kind of illustration or digital painting, you can do it with the included pen. And then on the second panel, you can have like your reference material while you're drawing, or you can like watch a show, or you can watch a tutorial on like what you're doing with that first screen. It's so cool. And for students, if you're in a lecture, you can take notes. Like you can like pull up some course material on one screen and then work on the other. And then you can also add annotations and diagrams to your notes with the pen. And then if you want to be a complete asshat, you can be playing a game on the top screen and then stream snipe someone on that secondary screen. But those are all examples of using this device with both screens, right? If you want to, you don't have to use the bottom screen or the secondary screen, and you can have it as like a keyboard, like an on-screen keyboard with an 8-finger tap, and you can also use a trackpad. This trackpad is surprisingly good. Like when I first activated it, I was expecting it to be pretty janky, but like it just tracks and moves so smoothly. And there's also haptic feedback on the buttons down here, but this whole section down here is now a giant trackpad, and it just works the way that you would expect it to work, or the way that it should
Fuck,
work
this
if
is
this was
cool.
built properly. Now I will say
This is
that
damn
the
cool.
actual on-screen typing experience isn't the best. Like, this doesn't feel particularly natural because there's no like tactility to it, but it does work if you need it. You see, the concept of a dual-screened laptop isn't brand new here, but it's how they've integrated the software with the hardware and all the gesture control. Like they've just done a really good job of making this a really viable product. But what really
True
ties
that, I
all
would
this
like two
together
screens on my
is
laptop.
the hardware kit that they include with the product. So you get this active pen, which you saw earlier, but there's also this Bluetooth keyboard. This is an external keyboard. It has its own battery, and it can connect magnetically to the whole setup. But this is a nice keyboard. It's like a, I don't know, membrane keyboard feeling thing. But the thing that ties all of this together, this whole product together, is this stand/cover thing. So when I pulled this out of the box, I was like, this is the thing that they're using to hold the whole product? Like, how is this gonna work? How do you hold two screens into a usable form factor with just this? But it snaps together magnetically, and now you can place the yoga book on this stand. So this bottom angle holds that bottom screen at around, I don't know, like a 50, 60 degree angle. And then the top screen, you can adjust it to whichever angle you'd like. So you can have it like kind of straight up facing you, or you can have it tilted down if you prefer. But it's all a very sturdy contraption. Like this doesn't feel like some bizarre, janky afterthought of a stand. This feels like so well designed. It's just surprisingly sturdy for what it is. And then once you have it all set up, you can take your keyboard and you attach it magnetically.
Fuck,
the
this
front
is
of it.
cool
You
as
have, like,
fuck,
this
man.
whole two-screen setup. How sick is that? And your
I
pen,
know,
you
right?
can just use it, or you can store it in the back. And if you don't like the feel of the on-screen keyboard, you can take that Bluetooth keyboard, place it on top of that second screen. It attaches magnetically, it automatically detects it, and this bottom area now becomes that trackpad like I mentioned earlier, and now you have a tactile keyboard up top. So the screens, these are both 13-inch OLED panels, and they're really nice. 2.8K, 16:10 aspect ratio. They get bright, very good color reproduction. They're just fantastic screens. And then at the top of them, there's a webcam. This has infrared for facial biometrics. So they use that
I
stuff for
gotta say, this is cool as fuck, man. कोई भी आर्टिस्ट, कोई भी ग्राफिक डिज़ाइनर तो नहीं है गेस, कोई भी वीडियो एडिटर भी नहीं है गेस, उन्हें तो स्ट्रॉन्ग चीज़ें चाहिए यार, रेंडरिंग के लिए और प्रोसेसिंग के लिए थोड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग चीज़ें ही लगती हैं. What do we have? This looks a lot like Horizon thing, like जानवर है machinery वाले. This movie looks pretty cool. But I don't have the time. The female experience, as I said, Valorant. What the fuck? What is this supposed to mean? Where's my PlayStation version? Impressive. No, it's not. Okay guys, I know मैंने बोला था कि हम Horizon Zero Dawn भी खेलेंगे. I'll revisit that, but अनफॉर्चुनेटली अभी के लिए आई कैनॉट, आई हैव सम वर्क टू डू एंड सम अर्जेंसीज टू अटेंड. सो अभी के लिए हम इस यूट्यूब सेशन पे ही स्ट्रीम को ख़त्म करते हैं. एंड यू कैन लेट मी नो अगर तुम मुझे देखना चाहते हो होराइजन ज़ीरो डॉन खेलते हुए. तो एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम है कि होराइजन ज़ीरो डॉन बहुत पुराना है, पीपल लव इट, बट आई डोंट थिंक उस पर इतने व्यूज़ आएंगे या कोई देखने भी आएगा. मोस्ट ऑफ यू, तुम लोगों ने देख ही लिए होंगे और चैनल्स पे वॉक थ्रूज या फिर खुद ही खेल लिया होगा. बहुत पुराना गेम है. बट लेट मी नो इफ़ यू वांट मी टू स्ट्रीम इट. Okay, that was all for right now. I'll stream again in the day. Let's see how it goes. Okay, bye, thanks for watching.